Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, or wherever it is where you are. In this video, I'm going to be doing a hopefully concise review of the Trijicon SRO. I'm also briefly going to be talking about the RMR as well, as I've tried that too. Both are very good optics. Later on in this video, we're going to talk about who the RMR is for, who the SRO is for, and I'm also going to do a quick comparison between the 2.5 MOA SRO and the 5 MOA SRO. And hopefully it'll help you decide which one is right for you. On my CZ Shadow 2, I have the 5 MOA SRO, and on my Glock 17, I have the 2.5 MOA SRO. The first thing we'll get out of the way is the difference between the SRO and the RMR. The SRO, I believe, is aimed more towards competitive, fast-paced shooters, whereas the RMR is aimed towards more of the everyday carry type of person. The SRO being a much larger window, it's much easier to pick up the dot much faster. The SRO has a nice big circular window, which I think is very natural on the eyes. And it's quite easy to acquire no matter what size MOA you've got on the SRO. The RMR, on the other hand, has a much bulkier frame, a much bulkier housing around the outside of the window, which is more or less a square shape with a little bit of a divot in the top. From my experience, I find that the human eye is much better at centralizing a point in a circle than it is finding a center of a square. The reason the RMR has such a bulky frame on the outside is just to help with its durability. You could probably throw that thing off a cliff and it's not going to go anywhere. Whereas the there's a plane flying over. The SRO, on the other hand, from what I understand, is not built to be as heavy duty. It is still a very tough optic, and this one on my CZ has been through quite a bit of abuse and it's holding up very well. I have accidentally put a little scratch on the lens because I decided to wipe it, not realizing that my cloth had a little bit of copper jacket from a projectile stuck on it, and I scratched the inside of my optic. A little bit annoying, but that's okay. The one on my Glock, the 2.5 MOA, hasn't had as much use as the one on my CZ, and it's basically feels brand new and looks brand new from what I can tell. Between these two firearms, I've probably put about 10,000 rounds on the Glock with the 2.5 MOA SRO, and I've probably put close to, I would say, 30 to 40,000 rounds through this Shadow 2, with the SRO mounted on it for most of that time. I did actually put the RMR on this Glock before the SRO. The RMR that I used was the 9 MOA dual illuminated RMR, which is the batteryless one. I think for an everyday carry sort of firearm, you'd probably want something where you don't have to worry about the batteries, and that may be something that you want. But in my case, I'm a competitive shooter, so I opted for the SRO, which feels much faster. In terms of the operation of the SRO, it is very simple. Once you've taken your cover off it and you're ready to shoot, you basically just press the little plus button on the left-hand side of the housing. That's going to turn on your optic. And you've got a bunch of different brightness levels. You've got level 1, which is barely noticeable in daylight, probably better for very, very dark situations. Level 2, a little bit brighter, probably okay if you're like trying to do some sighting in and sort of see behind the red dot. Level 3, a little bit brighter, that's probably good for a nighttime shoot, I would say. And then you've got level 4, which is reasonably bright. Level 5, 6, and it looks like 6 may be the maximum. Let's compare level 6 in the afternoon light to the 2.5 MOA. I think in lower lights, the 2.5 MOA seems a little bit more crisp when I've dialed it down 1 or 2 notches, and it's quite a nicely presented dot on the 2.5 MOA. In terms of precision shooting, I'd probably opt for the 2.5 MOA, as it is much more of a precise pinpoint of red light in comparison to the 5 MOA red dot, which seems to be a bit more of an eye-catching blob of a dot. Now, when I'm actually competing and I'm doing fast-paced shooting, I can't tell the difference between these two. I'm shooting at the speed of my sights, and whenever I see just a flash of red appear in my optic on the spot I want to hit on the target, I'm pulling the trigger. So whether it's a pinpoint of red light or a slightly larger dot of red light, doesn't really bother me, as long as I can see red. Putting these optics side by side, the only way I would know the difference between the two is if someone told me there was a difference. Going up to level 7 for both of them to see the star bursting effect in the current lighting that I'm in. The 5 MOA is still usable. Like, I would be able to shoot with that perfectly fine. It may not be the best for precision. Looking at the 2.5 MOA, the Glock, at the highest level brightness, it's starbursting out quite a lot more. It appears much brighter. It's almost too bright to actually see through the optic. Whether that's good for you or not, it's up to you. In terms of mounting the actual optics to your firearms, both SROs of course run the same footprint as the RMR, so it's very easy to swap between the RMR and the SRO. The quality of the glass on the SROs is also something to be noted. It is very clear, especially on my less used 2.5 MOA. It almost looks like there is no glass at all. There appears to be very minimal or almost no distortion when I'm passing the lens over a target. I'm going to try the same with the 5 MOA. Yep, to me it does not look noticeable, the difference between the two. If someone was to offer me one or the other, I wouldn't mind, honestly. I would think that both would be perfectly fine to shoot with. Something interesting, I'm not sure if it's just the one that I got in particular, but my 2.5 MOA definitely does appear to be brighter than my 5 MOA, or at least more of a focused brightness than a spread out brightness, if that makes sense. Closing thoughts on these two, honestly, I don't mind either one. If, as I said before, if someone was to offer me one over the other, I'd take it. It's an SRO. They both feel equally as nice. In terms of comparisons to the RMR, for speed and competitive shooting, I would highly recommend the SRO. And if you are the type of person to carry your firearms around with you for work or an EDC, I'd probably recommend an RMR, specifically the batteryless RMR. Thanks for checking out this video.